So today we're going to cut through that and really focus on something I think a lot of us struggle with, and that's, are we even measuring the right things to achieve our goals? Like, think about it, right? You step on the scale and you feel defeated, even though like your clothes are fitting better, or maybe you're totally crushing it at work, but there's some like random metric that just makes you feel behind. So are we just like chasing the wrong numbers here? To kind of explore this, we're going to look at it through this interesting lens, a combination of agile software development and investing. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird, but trust me, there's this really cool connection to how we set and measure progress, even for like our personal goals. And this whole idea really kind of clicked for me when I came across this quote that said, "Tell me how you measure me, and I'll tell you how I'll behave." It's from this business guru guy, Eliyahu Goldratt. And it really made me think, like, are we measuring the things that are actually driving the right behaviors and outcomes? Or are we just like chasing these vanity metrics that don't really show our actual progress? And there's this expert, Ochi Miller. He's like a big name in user experience design. And he says that data is exhaust, not fuel. It sounds kind of strange at first, but like, think about it this way. Data shows us where we've been. It's kind of like the result of our actions, but it doesn't tell us where we're going. So let's break this thing with an example from the world of agile software development. So Agile Manifesto, right, which is like the foundation of this whole thing, says that working software is the primary measure of progress, not lines of code written. So it's not about how much you produce, it's about the value of what you're actually making, right? Now, how does this like translate to something like investing? Well, just like focusing on lines of code might not actually lead to better software. Just focusing on past stock performance can be like totally misleading in investing, right? We need to look past that data exhaust of just historical returns, and we need to understand like what's the fuel that's going to drive future growth. Things like the company's fundamentals, market trends, the competitive landscape, that kind of stuff. So you see, whether it's software development or investing, we really need to be careful not to get caught up in chasing the wrong metrics. It's not about ignoring data. It's about using it smartly to like make our decisions and guide our actions. It's about understanding that data is really just like a byproduct of what we do. But it's the choices we make, the strategies we use, the actions we take, that's the real fuel that pushes us forward, you know? So now you might be thinking, okay, I get it, data can be misleading, but like, how do I know which metrics to actually focus on?
That's a great question, and it's where things get really interesting. Let's dive into a specific example that I think a lot of us can relate to, and that's fitness. A lot of times we get so fixated on that number on the scale, right? We treat it as like the ultimate measure of progress. But what if I told you that weight can be like a really misleading metric?
Imagine you have two people, they both weigh 150 pounds. One of them is a bodybuilder with a ton of lean muscle mass. The other person has a much higher body fat percentage. The scale shows the same number, but their body composition and like their overall health are totally different. This is where that data exhaust versus fuel analogy really comes in. The scale is just showing us the exhaust, right? It's just a byproduct of our efforts. It doesn't tell us the whole story about the fuel we're using, like our diet, our exercise routine, our lifestyle choices, all that stuff. So if we're serious about improving our fitness, what metrics should we actually be focusing on? Well, it kind of depends on our goals, right? If we want to get stronger, maybe we track the weight we lift or how many reps we can do. If we're focused on endurance, maybe we track our running time or distance. And if we just want to be healthier overall, we might look at things like our blood pressure, our cholesterol levels, even just how we feel throughout the day. The key is to choose metrics that actually align with what we want to achieve. Metrics that give us a real measure of progress towards the things that we value. Think of it like this. If you're driving a car, you don't just stare at the speedometer, right? You also look at your fuel gauge, the road ahead, the traffic around you. You use all that information to make decisions about your trip. In the same way, we need to use data intelligently to kind of navigate our path to success. We need to choose the right fuel, the right metrics, the right actions to get us where we want to go. Now, some of you might be thinking, all right, this all sounds good in theory, but how do I actually apply this to my life? How do I know if I'm focusing on data exhaust or data fuel? Well, that's where a little bit of self-reflection comes in. Take some time to think about the goals that you're working towards right now. What metrics are you using to measure your progress? Are those metrics actually aligned with what you want to achieve? Are they giving you an accurate picture of how you're doing? Or are they just distractions that are taking you down the wrong path? For example, if your goal is to build a successful business, are you just obsessing over website traffic and how many followers you have on social media? I mean, those could be useful indicators, but they're ultimately just data exhausts. The real fuel for a thriving business is creating value for your customers, building strong relationships, and delivering a product or service that people actually want and need. Similarly, if your goal is to be a great parent, are you measuring your success based on how many extracurricular activities your kids are in or how good their grades are? Again, those could be indicators of progress, but they don't tell the whole story. The real fuel for a strong parent-child relationship is spending quality time together, having a strong emotional connection, and open communication. So I really encourage you to take a moment to examine the metrics that you're using in different areas of your life. Are you focusing on data exhaust or data fuel? Are you measuring the things that truly matter, the things that will actually get you to where you want to be? Remember, data can be a powerful tool, but it's up to us to use it wisely. We need to choose the right tool, the right metrics, the right actions to power our journey towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life. So, as we kind of wrap up our deep dive today, I think it's important to remember that this idea of data exhaust versus data fuel, it goes way beyond just our personal goals. Like, it can really help us understand these systems and structures all around us. Think about it this way. If a company only rewards its employees based on sales numbers, right? What kind of behavior is that encouraging? They're probably just going to focus on closing deals no matter what, right? Even if it means like cutting corners or sacrificing those long-term customer relationships. Or take a school system that only cares about standardized test scores. What happens then? Teachers are pressured to just teach to the test, right? And they might end up neglecting other important skills like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, all that stuff. These examples just show how powerful the metrics we choose can be. They have this huge impact on behavior, not just for individuals, but for entire organizations and even societies, So what does all this mean for you? It means being aware of the metrics that people are using to measure progress in different areas of your life, your workplace, your community, even like the media you consume. Always ask yourself, are these metrics actually lining up with the values and outcomes that I actually care about? Or are they just data exhaust, leading us down a path that doesn't really serve us, But the good news is we have the power to challenge these metrics. We can advocate for better, more meaningful measures of success, measures that actually reflect what truly matters. And we can start by questioning the status quo, by pushing for systems that value quality over quantity, that focus on long-term sustainability instead of just short-term gains, and that prioritize genuine well-being over these like superficial markers of achievement. So the next time you find yourself chasing a number, just take a second and pause. Ask yourself, is this data exhaust? Or is this data fuel? Is this metric actually driving the right behaviors and outcomes? Or is it time to step back and find a better measure of success? Keep that question in mind as you move forward. And until next time, remember, keep seeking that common sense in our sometimes senseless world.